Today we're going to do a painting of some rocks. And I'll show you, I went and got some thread. I thought that might be fun to try that thread thing. I found some white ink that I have. I had to reconstitute it. It's an opaque white watercolor for pen and brush. So I thought I'd use some of that. I have some of my black India ink. And of course, because I have that, I have to have a pen. So I have a few different pens. I have my Crow Quill pen, really tiny point. And let's see. I know I have my other one here too. Yes, it's a dip pen. This one. I have some of these like brush pens and so forth. I'm not going to use as many pens, but I have it if I need it. And some gouache and so forth. So before we start.
Sophia, did you use a little sandpaper on your nibs before you started?
I haven't done that personally, although I saw that, that one person we've watched, The Mind of Watercolor, says to do that, but I didn't do it and it still works. Might work better if I use sandpaper though.
Would tend to help it hold more ink, wouldn't it?
Yeah, maybe. Oh, maybe I did. Come to think of it, I might have done that a little bit with this pen, not with my Crow Quill, but with this one. Yeah, if people want to make sure it holds a little more ink, putting some sandpaper on it would be good. So, all right, so to start with, I'm not going to use, I guess I'll use some spattering because there's some dots. And so I might be, if I look at that photo that I had, it's got a lot of white spots and a lot of dark spots. So it will require some spatter. And just my regular set of brushes that I like to use so much is what I'll be working with here. So some flats, mostly rounds. And I'll start by drawing. And I want to do this a little bit more abstractly in some ways, so I'm not going to be really, really careful to make it look realistic. I'm just going to get some of these shapes in. It's fun to draw these round shapes, circular shapes. Kind of soothing, actually. I think we could all use something that's a little more soothing lately. All right, that's a pretty quick drawing, and I'm not going to try to draw the patterns onto the rocks. That's something that will just occur as I paint, because as I said, it can be abstract. So to start with, I want to have my string ready. So I'm going to take a bunch of string off here, cut off a big piece of string. And because what she did didn't work when she dipped it in the paint, I'm just going to add the string on top of my painted rocks, and we'll see if it'll retain some color. I'm going to start with the red rock, I think, that is up here on this upper third of this page. And colors to use, I'll start with the underpainting color that I see is kind of an orangey tone. So I've got some cat orange here. Should have reconstituted some of this. I'm actually going to spray some water in my palette. Help get some of these paints a little more reconstituted. Oh, and I dropped some, but that's okay. There are some white specks on this rock too. I'll try to retain some of the white for the reflections, but I'll probably end up using some salt for some of that too. And I see some, I'm not sure what color this is that I've got. It's kind of a, could be scarlet red, I'm not sure. This is an Indian red. I'll have two brushes going here, one for my reds and one for more of my oranges. And I've got to get some darks in there too, so I'm adding a little bit of cobalt. I'm going to use my toothbrush with some of the darker, like cobalt mixed with alizarin crimson. You can control where it's going better with using it this way. Putting a little bit of my thread on here. Oops. Sprinkle a little salt. Now on top of that thread, I'm coming back in and putting it on top of the thread so that it'll give it a little bit of saturation.
Sylvia?
Yes.
Yeah, can I use a glue gun for texture?
Are you talking about putting glue on the surface?
Yeah.
I haven't seen people do that, but I don't see any reason you couldn't do that.
No, I don't know if the watercolor will cover glue, so.
I don't know either. I think it's one of those things that's experimental, and you're the one that's going to maybe try it, and then you can tell us if it works.
I've
Okay.
used Elmer's glue and it acts as a resist, like just a bead of Elmer's, but I've never tried any other kind of glue. But you can use it to, it's a resist of the paint. It doesn't take the paint. It leaves a white area.
Oh, okay.
Oh, when you use Elmer's, it won't take the paint?
No, when it's dry, you know, if you just put Elmer's glue on the watercolor paper,
Yeah,
and then you let it dry, it'll act as a resist. Even using what's the other one? Rubber cement is also, you can drizzle it on with the brush and let it dry, and then it'll also act as a resist. That's the only thing I've tried.
what do you mean by resist?
It resists the paint. It keeps the watercolor paper white. It won't take
Oh.
paint.
Acts as a
Oh.
barrier. You're using a glue gun. I would think you're intending that to be a permanent part of your picture. I can't imagine being able to get it off. And I don't know how archival it is. I wouldn't be inclined to use it if archival.
Yeah, I mean, you can use glue over color, but you're not going to get any more color on the paper if you use the glue over the color. But I've used glue, Elmer's glue, just as a resist, and I've also used like the rubber cement were the only two things I've tried. I haven't tried using a glue gun.
Okay.
Yeah, well, that's some kind of plastic compound. I don't think it's intended for long-term permanency, but all bets are off, you know, in the modern age, anything is permitted almost. Just don't call it a watercolor.
Mixed media.
Yeah,
This is Paraline green that I'm using right now.
and per a discussion of a week or two ago, we were looking at PVA, polyvinyl acetate, and polyvinyl alcohol. And Elmer's glue is one of those two PVAs. Can't remember which one.
Oh, okay.
Ed, what were you trying to do with the glue gun anyway? What was the reason for using it?
Well, I don't know about using thread. I mean, I don't even have any thread. So I've got
No, I'm talking
salt.
about
I
the
have table,
glue gun. What were you going to do with the glue gun?
add texture to my painting.
Oh, okay.
Let's see, I'm coming back in here with, this is sort of a manganese blue on this rock down here. Try to remember to keep some whites for the hard reflections or highlights. I'm sprinkling some salt now. Okay, I'm going to add a light green lines in this rock here. On this rock that's kind of here on the, it's a yellowish rock. Whoops, I didn't mean it quite that yellow. I'm going to start with a yellow underpainting. And I don't mind if some of that from the other rock bleeds into it. A little bit of salt here now. A little more thread. I forgot my tweezers. I'll have to go get tweezers. I'd kind of like to see what would happen if I put some thread in some of the white ink. See if that does anything.
Which rock are you going to put it on?
I think I'll put it on this green one. Or even, yeah, I see some little like swirly lines on that one. I think I better get some on my palette and just put it in this little puddle.
It's working already.
Oh yeah, I see some darker lines. That's kind of neat what's happening. And while I have this white ink, why don't I drop a little here and there?
Is that white watercolor ink or acrylic or what?
It's a opaque white watercolor. Pen opaque, it's called.
Huh.
Didn't even realize I had it until I looked in my box of inks and there it was.
Open is the brand, I assume.
Let's see. See, it's called Pen Opaque.
Oh, pen opaque. Okay.
Stag Products. I probably had it forever. Let's see, this looks like it's got some ultramarine blue in it, this rock up here. So I'm doing my mixture of burnt sienna and ultramarine for darker darks. Oops, the thread grabs you and the color if it touches and brings it into the other rock. I'm looking for places where I need to add some more darks on some of my other rocks now. Already I've lost some of my darks as this started to dry.
Well, you might have lost your darks, but you're getting some nice luminous color, you know, some
Yeah,
transparency in the blues especially.
thank you. When I start to put in some of the darker in between the rocks, I think that's when things are going to start to come together a little bit. And I probably should do that soon so I can make a judgment about how much more to do on some of those.
Yeah, it's a slow build process, I guess.
Right. I might try with my pen to drag some of this. Just to see if I can get some ink in it. Some of these smaller little lines that I see. Okay, I'm going to, while this is still damp, I'm going to add a little bit of this white ink to the green rock. And I'll try it with my pen. Because I want some softer edges. I'm doing it while it's still a little damp. Got this string on my pen. Okay, I'm going to start dropping in some of these shapes in between and try to get kind of a sandy-like texture in there. Just looking for the colors I see that are the lightest in here. I'm going to start with some of those first. Have to be careful not to touch some of those edges quite yet, because they're still wet. I'm pulling this thread off because now I'm starting to paint the background. And I got some subtle lines, not real strong, but they're, you know, I can see some lines. it's really important to put these darks in so that you can see the dimension, and then you can start to look at your highlights.
It really adds a lot of depth.
It helps, huh? Okay, I'm getting close to where I need to stop now. And so what I plan to do is focus a little bit more on some of the value contrasts within these areas that I think should be more of the focal point. So I need to add a little more of the darker speckles on this rock.
Is your paper dry or still a little damp?
It's still a little damp. That's one of the issues. But of course, you know, I'm getting soft edges. And that's something that I guess I'm gonna have to just break down, start using the hair dryer.
Well, soft edges are nice, so.
Yeah, it's just that when you have to get something done,
Yeah.
then you need to think about,
Sylvia, is the salt still on the stone, the green stone that you just added the darks to?
yes,
Thanks.
right. Let's see. I'm really liking the effect of that white ink or this opaque white. And I wouldn't mind, I don't know if you can see this one section right down here where it dripped on, like right in here. It's got kind of a nice textural effect. So I might try to do a little bit more of a spatter with that. Or even just drop a little on. It's too hard to get a small spatter with it. Let's see. Probably should just use gouache.
Could probably do a whole tutorial on how different whites behave. Not to add to your task list or anything, but.
See if I can get some of this white ink on my toothbrush that's got a finer. Yeah, that's good. That's what I wanted.
Sylvia, what are you using now?
It's this white ink and a toothbrush.
It's
Do
very
you
effective.
remember what you used to get that dark green color?
The dark green is the Pyroline green,
Ah,
and maybe it's got some Prussian blue in it too.
okay.
It's interesting how it subdues as it dries, you know?
Mhm. I don't know if this pen opaque is waterproof. I don't think so. Okay, I wanted to get to where I show the highlights, but I haven't got quite enough color on some of these areas to show them. Sometimes you think something's white and it's actually not. When you realize you have to show the highlights, and then you realize suddenly, well, I guess I'm going to have to fill in some of these other whites. Okay. I'll give it I'll stop for now because I want to have time for the voice thread. But I think it's been fun and I'm anxious to see, have any of you been doing the rocks too, painting along?
I have.
Yeah.
Oh, good. Okay. It'll be fun to see what you end up with. What do you think? Has it been fun?
Yes,
Oh, yeah.
For
lots-
some reason, I love painting rocks.
Definitely.
You make it look so simple, Sylvia. That's fabulous.
Oh, really? Looks so-
Yes.
Yeah.
I've been so excited watching it. It's like, oh my God, they're just popping out at us.
Starting to, this is a funny thing though. It's like, well, I've said this before, I get started and then I don't want to stop.
Yeah. Well, it looks great.
I like the way the
inspired.
thread worked, actually. I'm happy with some of the effects of the thread. It's hard to see some of it, but I see it in here and throughout here. And I think I could come back in with some more lines and do some more things with it. It'd be kind of neat to spend more time on it.
there's no one saying you shouldn't.
I'm going to flip it and look at it this way
Mm.
for now, because you could see a little bit more of it.
Wow.
And sometimes, it might be even neat to do a painting where you don't paint all the rocks on the outside edge, just leave some of the shapes.